Hello, listeners, and welcome to 2017 and another episode of The Partial Historians.
Woo!
That's my crowd going wild. My crowd is made up today of one lovely
Dr. Greenfield.
and I am always Dr. Radness. Welcome one, welcome all. We're continuing to trace our journey of the history of Rome from the founding of the city itself.
Could it get any more exciting?
I know. I mean, I feel like we've been doing this for a while now, and yet we're still in very early days. So strap yourselves in, guys.
I'm beginning to realise just how long the Roman rule really was.
I know. I'm starting to feel like in 40 years' time, you and I will be sitting here going, "Welcome, listeners of the Partial Historians."
We've partially finished the history now.
We're up to Augustus.
Look, if we get to Augustus, I'll be really pleased.
Me too. Anywho, enough about that. Welcome to 2017 and brand new Partial Historians. We are doing some small stuff on Coriolanus today, I think.
We are.
Yeah.
Coriolanus, man, this guy just keeps on going.
Yeah, I know. He's become like the new Tarquinius. He haunts our dreams.
Yes, but dare I say, he's lasted even longer.
It feels that way. It feels that way.
He's definitely going to die soon, everybody.
Yeah, don't worry. We're gonna pump this out. All right. So, Dr. G, when we last left our gorgeous listening public, Coriolanus was facing a dire point in his career.
Oh man, being put on trial.
Yeah.
Harsh. For what? He asks.
For usurpation, they reply,
And he's like, how?
and they're like, "Dunno."
Not sure.
But we don't like your face.
Definitely feeling it though.
Yeah. I can't prove it, but I know you're thinking it. Yeah,
Yep.
so Coriolanus is about to go on trial for what? It's a bit unclear. The evidence, also a bit hazy.
The evidence is sketchy, but
Yeah.
it's mostly a factionalism issue.
Yeah, this is all part of the larger story, really, of the struggle between the patricians and the plebeians, which we have been telling for a long time.
Oh look, and this is a struggle that almost never ends.
Yes.
So, but we are deep in the struggle right now.
We are deep in the struggle,
This is
yeah.
part of the classic struggle.
Yeah.
And the plebeians, with their tribunes in support, have come to the conclusion that the patrician conservative stance of Coriolanus is just not going to work for them.
No, and I can understand that. He is pretty hardline, especially when it comes to, grain.
Look, this is a
Feeding
guy who's not about compromise.
No.
He was like, chop off the grain supply. Let them starve.
Yeah.
Then see who the people decide is in charge. It's the patricians.
That's right. The people in charge of the grain. Anywho, so he's facing this whole trial issue. Okay, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, clearly the patricians hold all the cards, because it seems like that is the moral of the story we've been telling for a long time.
I like to say they hold all the old cards.
That's true. That's true, yes. However, the fact that there are tribunes around, you guys have seen there's been changes happening. They don't always get their own way, otherwise Coriolanus wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, and changes don't really go smoothly either. So perhaps this sort of conflict is to be expected on some level. The plebeians are asking for better representation
Yep.
from the patricians, and the patricians like, that's not how we've ever done things. And they're like, hello, we don't like the way you used to do things.
BTW, guys. Yeah, so basically, in Livy's account, which is the one that I'm mostly using, but I will dabble with Plutarch as well, Livy has this situation where, with the trial coming up, the patricians are really pulling out all the stops to try and protect their guy, their dude, the main man, Coriolanus. They're doing this by, in Livy's account, trying to stop the plebeians from going to meetings and groups where they're going to, I guess, prepare for the trial, talk about the trial, I don't know. And they're trying really hard to prevent them from doing that, and they're using their clients as a diversionary measure. Now,
Interesting.
yeah, I know. I thought that was interesting too. But as you can imagine, it's not always effective. A secret meeting is secret for a reason. And the plebeians are still managing to collect in groups and talk about things. It's not working. But there's also this really curious little detail in relation to this trial that Livy mentions, which I found really interesting. The idea that the patricians say to the plebeians, look, even if you don't think that Coriolanus is innocent, maybe you could just acquit him anyway, as a favour,
To us,
best buds
please.
and all. We go back a long way, like the founding of the Republic and all.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Do you find that in Dionysius at all?
Not really.
I thought that was really weird. But yeah.
I mean, there's clearly a huge patrician faction in support.
Yeah.
So there is this sense of like, well, you know, like, this is our guy, please, you know,
Yes.
be kind to him.
Yeah.
But the plebeians take a fairly severe line,
Yes.
which is matching the severity which Coriolanus himself adopts.
Yeah.
Which is, no, we're going to continue on with this action, foolhardy though it may be,
Yeah.
because we want to see what happens next.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
we do, and we really want that grain.
Well, this is the weird thing in Livy. He tends to speed through details, as our listeners will be aware if they have checked out our back catalogue. Livy talks about the fact that Coriolanus doesn't really show up for the trial, it seems.
Yeah, which is really curious.
Yeah, which is
because
really...
he definitely does in every other source.
Yeah, really weird. Basically, Livy seems to indicate that he doesn't show up, which, as you can imagine, ticks the plebeians off even more, and therefore he is condemned in absentia.
Yeah. Well, this is certainly not how it goes down in Plutarch. He's there, but he doesn't say much.
No.
Because he doesn't get a real opportunity to. And when he does say things, it just pushes the vote against him.
Yeah, it seems like Plutarch, again, I found this a bit curious. It almost seems like Coriolanus, who's on trial in Plutarch, is actually a bit blindsided by
Yes.
the things that are brought up at the trial. Perhaps because, as we talked about last episode, he had locked in that they were just going to be charging him with usurpation. Or so he thought.
Yes. And then they surprise him with additional charges that he's not ready for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, however it falls out, it tends to get to the point where some similar things happen.
Yes.
He gets convicted, fair enough.
Yes.
Aspiring to tyranny, he's going to argue stringently for the rest of his days that that is not what he was
doing,
conspiring towards.
No.
And fair enough.
Damn tribunes.
Yeah. I mean, there's no real evidence to suggest that he's trying to become a tyrant in any particular way.
I don't think so either.
He's just interested in things being the way they always were.
Yeah, and he's not shy about sharing that opinion.
No. And so the conviction is commuted from a death sentence into perpetual banishment.
Ooh, I like that. Perpetual banishment.
Get out of here. I never want to see your face again.
Yeah, so I like the fact that Livy basically says that he leaves town muttering angry.
Damn you.
Yeah.
Doesn't... Yeah. Turns up at home, doesn't say much to the wife, doesn't say much to the kids, and it's kind of like, and then leaves.
Did you have a bad day? Come on, we need to share. We need to talk about these.
Damn plebeians.
Yeah.
And he leaves.
Yes.
So he's not happy, accepts the outcome of the trial because there doesn't seem to be many options for him right now.
No.
And now he's mad at everyone.
Yes. Well, this is the thing. I mean, Plutarch, because as we've mentioned in previous episodes, he is writing biography. So his account of this whole thing is rather stretched out, and it is, I think, a lot more primetime TV account. So he's got, Coriolanus, bidding tearful farewells and then taking a few clients with him and that sort of thing. But the thing is, Dr. G, where's an exiled patrician to go?
There's not many places to go.
No. I mean, Rome's the best place in the world. Everybody knows this.
Yeah, like he starts wandering the countryside.
Yeah.
He heads south, as it turns out. Not for the winter.
Not with the birds.
No, he's not migrating, as it were. But he wanders off south, and he heads kind of, perhaps surprisingly, towards the Volscians.
Yeah, now these guys, in case you don't remember, he's fought pretty significant battles against these guys.
Yeah. I mean, this is where he gets his name Coriolanus.
Exactly, yeah. And he's therefore not perhaps the most popular person with
I'd
them.
be guessing he wouldn't be really welcome in Volscian territory.
No.
Nevertheless, this is the path that he decides to take.
Yeah.
This means he has to go through all the Latin territory, and the Latins are currently in a special league with the Romans.
Of course they are. The
So,
Latin League.
The Latin League.
Cleverly named.
Yes. Rather clever.
Yeah.
So he goes through the Latin territory to get to the Volscian territory. And it's not really clear why he would decide to do that. It doesn't seem like a great move.
Yeah, see, Plutarch, I think, attributes him sort of stewing for a few days, wondering what to do, and then coming up with an evil plan, which is to incite a war against Rome, to make them pay for what they've done, the Ingles.
Yes, and the only people who have an army of comparable strength to the Romans at this point in time are the Volscians. And he's
the irony.
well, I've got a chip on my shoulder against Rome,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing the Volscians have a chip on their shoulder about Rome, so maybe we can enter into an alliance.
An alliance, I like it. So yeah, he basically manages, through various guile and
Subterfuge. He sneaks into the house of, like, the most powerful man in the city of Antium.
My enemy's enemy is my friend.
Gets accepted at the hearth, being like, yo! And one Attius Tullus is like, what are you doing in my house?
Whoa! I can imagine like some major ninja moves happening. How did you get in here? What are you doing? Are you here to kill me?
Calm yourself.
Yes.
I'm here with a very attractive proposal.
Yes, I do. I have to admit, would you mind if I read a little bit of Plutarch?
Oh, go for it.
I do like the Plutarch speech. He's so dramatic. I am Caius Marcius. You may recall, listeners, that was his original name. He who has wrought thee and the Volscians most harm, and the surname of Coriolanus, which I bear, permits no denial of this. I have won no other prize for all the toils and perils which I have undergone than the name which is a badge of my enmity to your people. Everything else I have been stripped. Through the envy and insolence of the Roman people and the cowardly treachery of the magistrates and those of my own order, I have been driven into exile too. And I am become a suppliant at thy hearth, not for the sake of security and safety, for why should I come hither if I were afraid of death, but with a desire to take a vengeance. Thank you.
Rousing.
I just love it. It's so funny. So funny.
And, as you can imagine, you've put yourself in the shoes of Tullus, of course you're utterly convinced by this.
Yes.
And you're like, well, obviously, let's band together. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And then these two become, like, best buddies.
Exactly. According to Plutarch, Tullus is very nice to Coriolanus, treats him as a man of rank ought to be treated, entertains him, plots with him, schemes with him, goes skipping through fields. Arm in arm. I made that last one up, but you get the gist.
Yeah, so we have this moment where, like, in these discussions between Marcius, our Coriolanus, and Tullus, it's clear that what Coriolanus wants is a just war. Justice is kind of his thing.
This is true.
He has felt very hard done by. By the Romans, and feels he's been treated unjustly.
Totally. Yeah.
And he's not willing to stand for that.
No.
But if he's to make war against the Romans, the pretext has to be good.
Yes.
And so
this is where Livy comes back into it for me. Livy gives quite a detailed description of how, meanwhile, back in Rome, they're planning to have like a repeat ceremony of the Great Games, which were for Jupiter. Mm-hmm. Because apparently, because a slave had been whipped by his master, like nearby the rituals or something, Jupiter was really displeased, was showing this displeasure in numerous ways. And so they decided, well, if we're going to get Jupiter back on side, we're going to have to redo it. We have to have a rewind. And so the Romans are busy doing this kind of thing. And this is going to play in Coriolanus' plans. Do you have a similar sort of story?
Yeah. So we have this moment where they decide to use the vehicle of Rome holding these games with everybody in the greater region as the way in which they can elicit a just reason for going to war. Yeah. So they conceive this plan that they'll send in a whole bunch of young Volscian men into the city. Yes. And just sort of overrun it with their excitement for the coming games. Yeah. And essentially to arouse suspicion. Because there's so many Volscian young men in the city.
See, this is interesting because my account in Livy is slightly different. In Livy, Tullus, the guy that Coriolanus has been buddying up with, he actually asks to see the consuls in private while the games are going on and tells the consuls that there's going to be a disturbance during the games. It's a double bluff.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's not that complicated in Dionysius' The Count.
Yeah, Tullus even says, in fact, I'm going to leave because I don't want my honour stained by what's going to go down.
I know it's going to happen and I'm getting out of here.
Pretty much, yeah.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, sorry, continue with your account, yes.
So, I mean, Tullus does drum up antagonism. towards Rome.
Right, yeah,
on the
yeah.
part of the Volscians.
Of course.
And
That shouldn't be too hard, given their
yeah. But he waits for that moment
Yeah.
when the Volscians have been expelled from the city.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, the Roman Senate is a little bit on edge.
Yep.
And there's also the plebeians making their wishes known.
Yep.
And everybody's a little bit confounded by there being so many Volscians in the city. And they're like,
Right.
this is just a little bit too much for these games. And they can't really decide what they should do. And they're like,
It's a little too Volsky, not enough room.
yeah, like, what's going on here? And it's
Yeah.
like, look, the numbers are it's just a little bit dangerous. I think we're going to have to send them out of the city.
See,
And
the Senate, I think in my version of Livy, like, they send the Volscians out because of what Tullus said. Yeah, but anyway, but same thing. They end up leaving the city. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yes. So, in Dionysius' account, there is a informer that
Right.
is being sent by Tullus
Ah.
to do that sort of job.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. So they have a stand-in man who's like, look, something's gonna go down, guys.
Yeah, okay,
So Tullus's hands are really clean.
Yeah.
And Tullus is just basically waiting outside the gates as the Volscians are getting expelled. He's like, come here, boys. Let's talk about what happened.
There, dry your eyes. Now, come on.
Yeah. What's going on? Are the
Yeah.
Romans being mean to you? I think this is a problem.
Yeah, well, as I said, the Volscians, of course, being driven out of the city when they were expecting to be having a good time. Because it seems as though, I mean, it seems to me in my account that the Volscians don't really know that this is happening, that Tullus and Coriolanus are totally playing everybody off against everybody. And the Volscians at first are like super scared because the Romans are driving them out of the city.
They're like, what's going on?
Yeah,
I'm
and
here for the games.
I think they don't really know, what's going on and why. But then after they left, as you say, they start to get really angry because, of course, this is a massive insult that they are considered too polluted to take part in the religious festivals. And they're a rewind game anyway.
They're like, but we're here. Oh.
Yeah, they think it's like a great dishonor.
Yeah, and this is important because it means that the Volscians are actually in for the war for real.
Yes, exactly.
They're offended. They're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And Tullus is like, will we let Rome just expel us when we're supposed to be friends and have this treaty?
Yep. Are you going to let them shame you like this? Are you going to go home to your families after being expelled from Rome for being polluted? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the moment where he's like, look, maybe we should get some advice on this issue from, Coriolanus.
He's a Roman.
He's
right
just
here.
being expelled as well,
You guys have so much in common.
Yeah, got a bit of a parallel going on. Like, let's think about this. And that's the moment Coriolanus starts to speak to the Volscians.
Nice. Yeah. Well, this is just it. In Livy's account, the indignation that Tullus excites makes the people so furious, especially because he adds on the extra layer of, if you hadn't left, the Romans were planning to kill you, right? And they're like, what?
Hey.
Yeah. Don't think that would have happened, but anyway. Basically all the Volscians go off. There's this huge revolt, and they decide, yep, we're definitely going to go to war against Rome. And the commanders for the war are, surprise, surprise, Tullus and Coriolanus.
And this is like a narrative that makes no sense.
I know. Why would Coriolanus be put in charge?
Yeah. Why would you go from being the guy that the Volscians hate to being the guy in charge of the Volscian army?
Even if you and Tullus have sparked off a massive bromance, I don't think that's going to mean dick to the Volscian nation at large.
You wouldn't have thought so.
No.
And for Dionysius's narrative, this means that there's got to be a lot of explanation.
Yes.
So Coriolanus gets up in front of the Volscians.
Aha.
They all collect themselves at Etria, which is to the southeast of Rome, which is like a nearby Volscian city.
Sure.
And he's like, look, let me say my piece.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in the same sort of situation you guys. I got expelled from Rome.
Yeah.
It was completely unjust.
Yeah.
And I can see that you're going through the same sort of things. And, it's the sort of thing where it's like, I'm interested in justice. I'm interested in the best way of doing things. This is my deal, guys.
Yeah.
I'm interested in governance where it's the aristocracy against the bad men. I don't like populism. I'm after bestness. And everyone's like, okay. And they're like, you're going off topic. But he
Really,
Coriolanus. Yeah, come on. And he's like, but, I think, this is the style of government I'm interested in. And I've sought you guys out because I think it's going to be better. And I'm just so grateful for being here with you guys today. And, maybe we should do this together. maybe.
Let me guess. The Volscians are totally down for this shindig.
He's like, the Romans fear you guys more than anybody else.
Oh, that's good. He's a smoothie.
He pulls out that line. And he's like, and, we've got to have a righteous and just pretext for war.
Yeah.
And I really feel like we've got one now.
Yep.
And I'm so with you. And I just love to be involved in any way that I can,
And so they're like,
help a brother out.
Give that guy command. He might not be Volscian, but whatever.
Yeah. He's like, use me in any way that's going to be useful to you.
Do you ever think they maybe put him in charge because they just wanted him to shut up?
I really feel like that. But, he talks a lot about having the gods on side.
Yeah.
And he basically offers himself in whatever capacity that they would like.
See, it's so funny because, yet again, Plutarch has a not completely, but like a slightly different way that this unfolds as well, in that it seems like there are a lot more people involved. Coriolanus and Tullus are, conferring with the chief men of the Volsci, and they decide that the Romans are going to provide the pretext, as we know. Coriolanus is the one that sends a warning about the Volscians going to attack there, and that's why they get kicked out.
Interesting.
Exactly, yeah. And then the Volscians, in Plutarch's account, send ambassadors to Rome after all this has gone down, asking for their land back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Asking for the land back becomes very important.
Yeah, and it's after that they vote for war. Yeah.
Yeah. Asking for the land back becomes like the recurring trope of the whole Volscian movement.
I feel like Moses took a book from the Volscians.
But before they even get to that point in Dionysius, the Volscians basically fall all over themselves, being like, oh my god, lights up.
And we thought all these years that you were like attacking us and killing us that we didn't like us, and you totally do. You totally do.
And now you've turned up and it's like, and we can do anything with you, anything at all. Oh my god.
Can we dress you up? Can we put you in armor? Can we make it all shiny?
Yeah. Can we put you at the front of the army? Because we know you're good. You're good at that. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll do that for you.
What did I say, guys? Anything.
Yeah, so like with Tullus getting up and sort of vouching for him as well, the Volscians vote, wait for this, that he can be a member of the Senate in every Volscian city.
Wow.
He can have the privilege of standing for the magistracies everywhere, and should share in all other honours that were most highly prized among them.
Wow. They're really going all out.
Yeah.
That must have been one heck of a speech.
Yeah. They gave him some full citizenship rights right there. And then they decide to send some ambassadors.
Right, this is when the land request happens.
And they're like, we'd like our land back, please.
Shocking when the Rome goes, no.
We're feeling a little bit offended that you threw us out of your city. We'd like our land back, please.
Yeah.
And Rome is like,
no.
Thinking about it, no. They say things like, we will never show any sign of weakness.
Oh, well.
Or relinquish any of our conquests. This is the way the Greeks and the barbarians do it, so don't expect us to be any different.
The Romans, I love you.
They're like, why should we lose through folly and cowardice? What we have acquired through valor and courage.
Fair enough, Romans, fair enough. I think they're just trying to yank your chain anyway.
And that's the moment the Volscians declare war.
Exactly, yeah. That's pretty much what happens in Plutarch. Yeah, Tullus calls an assembly of the people. They say yes to war. Yes, 1,000 times. These Romans are so hardline. And in Plutarch's account, Tullus puts Coriolanus forward, as you said, and this is where he's like, dude, if he was a terrible enemy, then he's going to be a good ally. I don't know how that logic necessarily works, but it works for them at that time. He becomes commander as well.
And even better, it has this moment in Dionysius where Coriolanus basically says to Tullus, look, I think we should divide up the command, where there's one guy in charge of the army that's running around doing things, and somebody else is in charge of the army that stays home for defense.
Ooh.
And he's like, and I'm going to let you choose which one you want to be in charge of.
That is actually remarkably accommodating for Coriolanus.
And Tullus is like, but you're just so good at attacking people. I think you should be in charge of the attacking army, and I'll stay home with the defensive
Now,
one.
see, we have had a story somewhat like this previously with Roman consuls where it was like, no, you should. No, you should. No, really, you're so much better at this.
I couldn't possibly.
But I'm guessing that with Coriolanus, he goes, all right, I am good at that.
Yeah. He's just like, it was your choice.
Yeah. I accept the wisdom of your decision.
Yeah. You chose well.
Yeah, see, in Plutarch's account, I actually like this. One of Coriolanus's game plans is that they're going to only attack plebeian land, not land owned by the patricians of Rome. Basically because he knows that is going to cause massive internal problems because the plebeians are going to be all like, what? And the patricians
We're
are
being
like,
victimized.
Yeah, exactly,
The patricians are like, and your point is?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And so that's kind of part of his game plan. So he's clearly hoping to sort of Rome will slightly implode from the external pressure, I think.
Yeah, so he's trying to take them down from within by playing the factions off each other.
Totally.
So,
which is wise. After all, who knows better than Coriolanus how much the plebeians hate the patricians?
Yeah. So, I mean, Coriolanus and Tullus both go around just sort of doing some general pillaging.
Yep.
They're like, this will be fine. Let's steal lots of animals. Let's take all the corn.
Yep.
You know, and we'll set fire to the country houses of well-to-do plebeians.
Ooh, dangerous game. Dangerous game.
So the farms of the plebeians suffer the most in these early attacks. And
he's not fully marching on Rome yet.
No, they're just in the hinterland, in the surrounding areas. And they're like, look, we'll take what comes. And because they've already declared war, but it's not really the season as yet, Rome's not expecting it. They're expecting the Volscians to do the traditional thing and wait for the war season to start.
That's their second mistake.
Volscians are not playing that game. They're like, nah, we've declared war, we're getting into it straight away.
Yeah, see, Livy, in his usual truncated version of things, he basically talks about how Coriolanus sets about recapturing Rome's latest conquests, and he lists off a whole bunches of places, like Satricum, Longula, Polska, and of course, knife in the heart, Coriolanus. The ways they gave him his name.
Now that's how could he? Just taken back the damn. So those cities, interestingly, in Dionysius' account, come up much later.
Well, I figured they probably would, because as you know, Livy tends to steam ahead.
Yeah. This is like for Livy, that's very compressed.
Yeah, it is. Livy is skipping right to the good stuff. So fair enough. So tell me, what else is Coriolanus up to in Dionysius' account?
Goodness me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously the plebeians and patricians in Rome start going at each other, not being able to come into answers. The patricians like, I don't know what happened. The plebeians like, I think you do, because our farms got burnt, not yours.
Are you sure you didn't just fall asleep with a cigarette in your mouth again?
And it's like, I think you know who's behind this. I think you know what's going on. I think you patricians are all in league with each other. Are you helping Coriolanus? And things like this. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then we have just some general extra pillaging, tensions rise in Rome
I mean, Plutarch
again.
definitely mentions that, Coriolanus is having, huge successes and capturing lots of booty, and the Volscians, they may as well be Coriolanians, they love him so much. The Volscians are super impressed, very happy with him.
Yeah, it goes through this whole series. Dionysius goes through this whole series of like different moments and cities that he comes across.
Yeah.
And how he engages in a siege, and then the city gives up for some reason because he keeps going at them, and he's got so many troops, and they keep stealing booty. So he's basically just moving around the countryside and accumulating booty, accumulating more grain, ruining another city, taking possession of it, recruiting more people, getting more people involved, and so his army's getting bigger and bigger.
Do you feel that, Romans? Do you feel that hand tightening around your neck?
And in Rome, the tensions are rising, but nobody seems to be able to come to any decisions.
They feel the pressure.
Yeah, and Dionysius suggests that like it doesn't seem to matter, even when the year changes and they get some new consuls, that all of the consuls that they've got at the moment are very inexperienced in war. So nobody's very good at anything.
No, and the citizens, I mean, in Plutarch's account, while all this internal strife is going on, the citizens are typically going, well, we're not going to fight, for heaven's sake.
And even worse, the Latin League is starting to get attacked. Latin cities are getting attacked by the Volscian army that's moving around, marauding in the countryside.
Yeah.
And they go to Rome and they're like, well, you're supposed to be looking after us. We're in an alliance. Like, what's up? And Rome's just like dithering, being like, well, we don't really know. Yeah. Because we're arguing amongst ourselves.
Computer.
Yes. Trouble with plebeians.
Do not compute.
And so they eventually concede to the Latin League members that they can start to raise their own armies for their own self-defense.
Well.
Which was not a condition.
I was going to
say. That's outside of the bounds of the treaty.
Ooh-hoo-hoo.
Yeah, because Rome at the moment just can't handle it. And they're like, look, you might have to look after your own defense and raise your own armies. And the Latins are like, oh, well, thank you. Well, and we'll go off and do that.
It seems to be, and this is kind of, again, like maybe something you're not expecting. In Plutarch's account, he says that the plebeians even moot the idea that they repeal the exile of Coriolanus to try and put an end to all of this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And the patricians in the Senate veto the suggestion, either because they are just that batshit crazy that they want to go against anything the plebeians suggest, or they don't want the plebeians to be the one to restore him, and they're kind of now angry at Coriolanus. I kind of feel like the latter makes much more sense. Otherwise, the patricians really are the most insane people I've ever met.
Yeah. There is a whole section on this in Dionysius.
I thought they would be.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm probably skipping all over your little...
No, that's fine. I mean, it does happen. We do have this moment where everyone in Rome is like, maybe the solution is just to ask him to come home.
Yeah. Maybe we were a bit hasty, Coriolanus. Maybe you should come back.
Maybe. But before that happens, like Rome has a whole bunch of allies defect. The Aequians disappear and they're like, I'm out of here.
Not the Aequians. Yeah. They've been around for a while.
Yeah. They're like, nah, totally not getting involved here. Yeah. The Volscians keep marauding. And a whole bunch, it goes through, oh, goodness me. So we have this sense in what is happening in Dionysius of Halicarnassus' narrative is this huge loss of Roman virtus. Yeah. Its manliness is on the line here, and it is not surviving well.
Well, yeah, I mean, Rome is essentially ignoring the cries for help, as you said. Yeah, The Latins are all like, hello.
Yeah, and I've got pages and pages of marauding Volscians just taking city after city after city, after like setting up for a siege and then deciding to just run out the walls and then making it through and then just moving on to the next one.
Yep.
And within a really short period of time, one after the other.
In Plutarch it's places like Capture, which I found hilarious, and also Tellurium, which I also found hilarious. Just sounds like something that shouldn't be associated with warfare.
Like, who are these people?
Exactly, yeah.
Labicum, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Pedum, yes. Corbio.
Bola.
Yes, Bola is raised. All the inhabitants taken as slaves.
Yep. It's bad. It's a very bad situation.
One of the worst is Boliviae, which is a substantial Latin city, the biggest one that the Volscians take.
I just realised the reason why I said ooh is because it made me think of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance
A different
sorry.
Fair enough.
Sorry, listeners. Thought I was recognising something, then realised I was way out of context. So basically, we won't go through quite every single little detail of these warfares, but basically Coriolanus is increasingly getting close to Rome itself.
Yeah, and certainly the Romans begin to seek Coriolanus's return to Rome.
Yeah, and they are starting to actually pull together a little bit, finally. Yeah. The Romans always do this at the end of the day, guys, They might have their fights and their tears and their tantrums, but at the end of the day, they pull together. At least at this point in time.
Well, I mean, maybe. So we have the entire populace shouted for his return. And my comment on this is, why? This seems a rather rapid turn of events. The narrative becomes suspicious. What would prompt them to change their mind? Why not just kill Coriolanus instead?
Maybe because of the massive amount of Volscians around him.
Well, I think it's really interesting. He gets exiled and banished on account of
being good at war,
attempting usurpation and tyranny.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now the guy's at your gate with an army and is like, I'm going to kill you good. And everyone is like, wait a minute, why don't you just come home? And I was like, hasn't he just demonstrated that he's really interested if he's got the chance at tyranny right now?
And he's also super capable of it. Well, should we perhaps pause there at this moment where Coriolanus is kind of at the gates?
At the gates of Rome. Oh, the tension.
I promise you, listeners, next episode, it will be the end, one way or another, for Coriolanus.